Hey guys, Nicole here from the Lemonade team, and today I want to talk to you about the science behind game-based training. So traditional training techniques typically mirror how we learned in school. So we use lecture-style classroom training, PDFs, and evaluative tests to train our employees. But this style of training is actually at odds with how our brains learn, process, and retain information. So today I thought I'd look at the science behind why game-based training works, how it improves learning comprehension and retention, and I'm going to try to not get too nerdy about it. Distributed practice essentially means spreading your learning out over time. So instead of a full day training session, you would take your content, break it down into smaller chunks, and increase the time between each learning session. Here's why it works. Our brains aren't actually that good at absorbing a lot of new information all at once. That's why after a full day of learning, you often can't remember everything that was covered. It's just too much to process. So when you decrease the amount you learn in a single learning session and increase the time between learning sessions, our brains are able to absorb more knowledge. And then they have to work harder to remember that knowledge in the next learning session. And that recall helps encode the knowledge in our long-term memory so that it's easier to remember the next time we need it. You see distributed practice used a lot in micro-learning platforms, but we also use it a lot in game-based training, specifically when we're breaking content down into levels. By making users master small chunks of content before they can progress, game-based learning naturally spreads out learning sessions, leading to better retention. Most of us grew up hating tests, but they can actually be an effective training technique as long as you're not being graded on them. So practice testing is essentially a test with low to no stakes on the outcome. Think more flashcards than pop quiz. And why it works is it forces our brains to practice recalling information, keeping it at our mental fingertips, and that helps encode it in our long-term memory, making it easier to remember in the future. At its core, most game-based training is a practice test. It just doesn't feel like one because it's also fun. Regardless of game type, users have to recall the correct answer and apply it to the correct situation. The game elements just hide the quiz structure from the user, and that helps further reduce the pressure on them, improving the effectiveness of the practice test and leading to increased retention. This last technique is essentially the practice of mixing topics together. So instead of taking a deep dive into topic A, you would learn about topic A and topic B at the same time. Psychologists have found that by mixing topics together, we're actually able to comprehend and apply information better, even though it takes us a little bit longer to learn it in the first place. That's because when you learn about multiple topics at once, your brain has to decide which information applies to which situation. That improves the organization of knowledge in your brain and makes it easier to apply the right information to the right situation in the future. We use this technique in game-based training in two main ways. The first is by letting users have access to different topics within a level. They can jump between courses, and that helps them practice applying the right information to the right situation. The second way we use interleaved practice is by using different game types within a course. So you might have a scenario round, a simulation round, a trivia round, all within the same course. And that helps the user practice applying the same information in different contexts, which also helps improve retention and the application of that knowledge after training. So there you have it. I hope this wasn't too nerdy for you. The main takeaway is that game-based training doesn't just make training more fun, it also uses cognitive psychology techniques like distributed practice, practice testing, and interleaved practice to help your employees learn, remember, and apply more of the information covered in training.